The About Face Beauty Spa in Royal Oak, Michigan, a quiet suburb north of Detroit, offers a variety of skin and body services, from $10 lip waxing to a $150 bridal makeup session. But while owner Ronna McDaniel generally caters to a local clientele, you've likely seen her work. That's because the Republican National Committee has paid the beauty spa more than $17,000 in recent years to do Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel's hair and makeup ahead of the powerful Michigander's many appearances on national television. The payments to McDaniel's spa are just a fraction of the nearly $100,000 the RNC has paid various beauty professionals since 2017, when McDaniel became chairwoman, according to a raw story analysis of federal campaign finance data. They include several in the Washington, D.C. area, where McDaniel also spends significant amounts of time. Describing McDaniel as a delight to work with and possessing the most beautiful bone structure and sparkling eyes, McDaniel told Raw Story she routinely meets the RNC chairwoman on location at Detroit television studios. When she's got a live interview, we just keep working. Rain, sleet, snow, said McDaniel, adding she totes a beauty kit with her for her appointments with McDaniel. You know, the hit is scheduled for a certain time frame and she's got to be in the chair mic'd ready with not a hair out of place. In and out. Done and done. The RNC's hair and makeup spending comes at a time when the Republican Party is courting blue-collar voters and lambasting President Joe Biden for what conservative leaders assert is an elitist and ineffectual economic policy that's causing nothing but pain and misery for American families. And it's the latest example in a storied string of prominent political figures, both Democrats and Republicans, who've enjoyed top-shelf pampering while simultaneously wooing the proletariat. Incredibly sexist. An RNC spokeswoman defended the committee's hair and makeup spending, which it characterized in federal campaign finance filings as media preparation. These payments were for hair and makeup for TV appearances for GOP voices, and as chairwoman of the RNC, part of the job is to spread our great Republican message on the airwaves, RNC spokesperson Emma Vaughn told Raw Story. It is incredibly sexist of Raw Story to attempt to smear women in politics for getting their hair and makeup done for TV appearances, something that has been done by men on both sides of the aisle for decades without criticism. But there has been criticism, often from Republicans. In 2015, prominent Republicans panned then-Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, perennially on television, for a $600 hair appointment at the posh John Barrett Salon in New York City, which put part of the Bergdorf Goodman department store on lockdown. Then GOP presidential frontrunner and Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker tweeted a list entitled, "The Economics of Hillary's $600 Haircut." The money spent on Clinton's coiffure could buy a family 138 pounds of beef or buy 4 years' supply of eggs, Walker asserted. Hashtag out of touch. There's a fine line between what the public will consider a legitimate political expense and a personal extravagance. If political donors knew their contributions would be funding $16,000 plus spa retreats, $1,000 plus haircuts, and thousands of dollars for suits, dresses, and makeup, many of these contributors likely wouldn't donate, said Aaron Sherb, Senior Director of Legislative Affairs at Common Cause, a government accountability group. While these expenses likely aren't illegal, these examples show how big money continues to dominate politics and funds lavish lifestyles for certain political figures. We need reforms like those contained in the Freedom to Vote Act to get big money out of politics to help elevate the voices of everyday Americans in politics. The COVID-19 era proved that TV talking heads, stuck in their living rooms and home offices with studios off limits, could still do national media hits without the help of professional artists. MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, for one, frequently spoke about doing her show from her basement. It involved handling her own hair and makeup, as well as the technical pieces. One prominent politician, Senator John Tester, Democrat Montana, boasted in a fundraising message to donors about his cut-rate approach to grooming. "Just like my $12 flat-top haircut from my local barbershop back home and my collection of dirt-stained t-shirts, my background is a big part of the reason I remain grounded and focused amid the partisan politics and nonsense happening in our government," Tester said. Nevertheless, politicians of all stripes will sometimes use donors' campaign cash, often a little, occasionally a lot, to put on their best face. Representative Pete Aguilar, Democrat California, paid a makeup artist $300 in August 2022. When Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland represented New Mexico in the U.S. House, she once spent $275 on a makeup artist. And when Carla Sands, who served as an ambassador to Denmark during the Trump administration, ran for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania in 2022, she labeled her $845 makeup artist as media prep. There are others. Representative Amelia Sykes, DOH, spent less than $300 on media prep at Macy's and Dillard's. During her 2014 and 2016 campaigns, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat turned independent who now works as a Fox News contributor, spent just under $7,000 in campaign cash for makeup and hair expenses. Raw Story also examined Representative Nancy Pelosi's expenses, finding that among her campaign accounts and political PAC, the former Democratic House Speaker used campaign money to fund $2,900 worth of makeup and hair expenses between 2014 and 2024. One makeup artist has photos of his work showing Pelosi on Time magazine at least 3 times, Harper's Bazaar, Vanity Fair, New York Magazine, and ahead of major speeches. The RNC noted a 2011 report that Pelosi, who was the first female Speaker of the House, had a daily hair appointment at the Four Seasons D.C. But according to campaign finance reports, the former Speaker didn't regularly use political or campaign cash to have her makeup and hair done for public appearances. Rather, she paid for it out of her own pocket and not at the donor's expense. Pelosi's appointments continued to make news during the past decade. Fox News, for example, reported on Pelosi having her hair done in San Francisco on August 31, 2020, during the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic, when trips to the beauty salon or barber shop came with perceived risk. Campaign finance reports show that during the same month, the RNC paid District Bridal Company of Washington, D.C., $2,496 for hair and makeup services. In the midst of these hair and makeup expenditures, the Republican National Committee stands apart for the frequency and amount of money it spends for such services, Raw Story's analysis of federal campaign finance data indicates. Among the charges the RNC had for hair and makeup includes $750 for a Michigan salon and a celebrity makeup artist that appears to work with Fox, who charged $2,546.97. In the case of one makeup artist, who was paid $1,560 in 2018 and $778 in 2017, the same person was listed on Open Secrets for travel expenses, totaling $3,473 in 2017. A salon in the posh ski town of Aspen, Colorado, charged the RNC $340.73 in August 2022. The RNC told Raw Story that, by its count, the DNC spent over $47,000 in hair and makeup expenses during the 2021 to 2022 election cycle. The DNC refused to comment for this story. But a person familiar with the DNC expenditures told Raw Story the costs are not just for hair and makeup but for a variety of people and purposes. The college Republicans tweeted 2 photos of Clinton, her hair shorter and sleeker in the second image. Before and after at Hillary Clinton's $600 haircut #We Can Do Better, it read. In another tweet, the college Republicans scoffed, at Hillary Clinton's $600 haircut. Meanwhile, college students struggling to pay for books this semester #We Can Do Better. Former President Donald Trump, who is again seeking the Republican presidential nomination ahead of the 2024 election, has long criticized the appearances of his political opponents and detractors, especially women. For example, Trump has called actress Rosie O'Donnell a fat pig and slob, and media executive Arianna Huffington a dog and ugly both inside and out. In 2017, Trump chided Clinton for her massive hair. "I tell you what, it really was shocking to see it, because you're right, it must be, it was massive. Her hair became massive," he told conservative radio host Mark Levin in 2017. Levin warned Trump, whose own hair is the subject of endless fascination and mockery, that his comments might get him in trouble. "I don't care. I'm a person that tells the truth," Trump said. "You know, it was interesting to see, but I've never seen Hillary with that hairdo, so I think that's an okay thing to say, but it was very different." More recently, Trump slammed the Super Bowl halftime performance of Rihanna, a longtime critic of the former president. "Without her stylist, she'd be nothing. Bad everything, and no talent," Trump wrote on his Truth Social site. As the news spread about the possibility of a Trump indictment for the hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels, the former president lashed out, calling her horseface and misspelling her name. Political expense. Or personal. FEC data indicated the DNC lists hair and makeup expenses using the catch-all term, event production, which also includes site rentals, stage setups, lighting, filming, and event consultants for conventions. It's all mixed together, making it difficult to suss out the exact amount out of the $167,817 of event production for the past decade. The names of hair and makeup vendors that appear in the DNC's financial disclosures also for the past year match the names of makeup artists that have posted photos touting their work with First Lady Jill Biden during the 2020 campaign for her photo shoot with Vanity Fair. Another DNC expense during the 2021 to 2022 years comes from the hair and makeup company Conceptual Beauty. While they haven't posted any photos of their work with political leaders in the past 2 years, they did share pics of Pelosi, tagging the location of the photos as the Capitol Visitor Center following Donald Trump's 2019 State of the Union address. Many of the DNC's hired hair and makeup artists are proud to publicly promote their clients, whether political or media. But DNC Chairman Jamie Harrison never turned up in the social media images for these hair and makeup artists. It doesn't mean he hasn't utilized any services, but there's no federal record indicating such expenditures have occurred. The DNC declined to comment on Harrison, as well. Trump's full-time hair and makeup artist was paid for at taxpayer expense, so it never appeared on any campaign finance reports. The artist was hired via the communications department during Anthony Scaramucci's short tenure. Then White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders' makeup changed enough during her time in front of the cameras that comedian Michelle Wolf joked about her perfect smoky eye during a White House Correspondents Association dinner. Personal image to maintain. According to Mnuchin, McDaniel has never physically visited her spa in Michigan. And while McDaniel may rank among Mnuchin's most notable clients, the late Queen of Soul Aretha Franklin is another. Mnuchin told Raw Story that she has worked for decades doing hair and makeup for television programs and more recently did the makeup for an episode of NBC's show, Dateline. Mnuchin's spa website explained that she has worked for numerous clients and network television during her nearly 40 years in the business. Mnuchin emphasized that the money she's made from the RNC came over a 6-year period and that she does McDaniel's makeup and hair every time she's appearing on television from Michigan. Most cable news networks have their own hair and makeup staff in New York and Washington, but that might not be the case at the affiliates where the guest, such as McDaniel, appears via satellite. "I absolutely just go to the studio facility prior to the interview to handle getting her ready, and that's my craft," Mnuchin explained. I mean, with 6 years together, do the math. When she's in DC, I know she's got her normal crew, but I know she travels all the time, so she's either coming or going. Mnuchin clarified that she has a kit and drives directly to the studio to meet McDaniel each time. It's not much per year for how many visits there are, Mnuchin said. And essentially, you have to go where the satellite is to reach the national, live. It's standard. Mnuchin also explained that one of the biggest problems with television is that it takes a three-dimensional world and renders it in 2 dimensions, which is why people always look like they've gained weight on camera. Light reflecting off the oils on the face also contributes. So, the most important thing a person can do when appearing on camera is to ensure there's no shine, she said. As a professional, you have a personal image to maintain, just like movie stars, Mnuchin told Raw Story. Politicians, tangled. In a political era where the image is often everything, one can trace modern grooming and beauty brouhahas to President Bill Clinton, who once shut down part of Los Angeles International Airport with Air Force One's engines running so his mononymous Beverly Hills hairstylist, Christophe, could board the presidential jet and tend to the commander-in-chief's salt and pepper locks. Democrat John Edwards, a U.S. Senator and 2004 and 2008 presidential candidate, drew gasps and pearl-clutching when this son of a mill worker, who championed impoverished Americans, used $1,250 worth of donor dollars to bankroll a traveling hairstylist who tended to his Kennedy-like coif. During the 2008 campaign, the RNC spent $150,000 not on hair and makeup but on a wardrobe for vice presidential nominee Sarah Palin and her family, Politico reported at the time. Ahead of the Republican convention in Minneapolis that year, the committee spent $75,062.63 at Neiman Marcus. And when Trump wasn't dishing out insults about people's looks, he endured his own share of barbs. He sometimes applies his bronzer makeup so that there's a line distinguishing his makeup and his hairline or neck. There have been a few occasions in which Trump's makeup smudged on his white dress shirt collar. There was even a segment on The Daily Show focusing on the shape Trump's neck would sometimes make and that it resembled female genitalia. Trump's White House didn't use political donors' money to handle hair and makeup, however. Taxpayers funded Trump's White House hiring a full-time artist to work at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and handle anyone there who appeared on television. The RNC's first financial report for 2023, covering spending in January, indicated more spending with Mnuchin's business, as well as other vendors that provide various hair, makeup and eyelash services, although it's unclear exactly what services they provided the RNC. Since the conclusion of the 2022 midterms, the RNC dropped another $3,867 on hair and makeup costs in January 2023. In February 2023, they had another $1,725 payment to the Michigan spa. It's a total of $5,592 for 2023. The Democratic Party has spent $4,333.25 on event production during the same time period. That put the Republican Party over $90,000 in donor-funded hair and makeup expenditures since McDaniel took over. The RNC told Raw Story that they don't intend to change their process of spending donor funds on the chair's hair and makeup.